A little while ago, I posted a video going over a few different Roblox MMORPGs that I found interesting. And yeah, that video kinda blew up. Never in my entire life would have thought that I would have made a video that got over 100,000 views. Mostly since I haven't even hit 1,000 subs yet. After uploading the video, I received a lot of comments asking me to go cover a bunch of different games. I thought, what's the best thing I can do? Make a part 2. And so I made a part 2 going over 3 more different games just so you can find a better MMO that you might end up wanting to play. And for the people wanting me to review Deepwoken, you're gonna have to wait. You can't just throw the biggest Roblox RPG at me and expect me to put it in some short review type of video. With all of that being said, these are gonna be short first impression reviews of the game. Capital S on short. These aren't meant to be taken super seriously, and they're not a full review of the game. If you are someone who loves these games and has tons of hours into them, good for you. Now, sit back as I take in the even sadder world of Roblox MMOs. You thought I was gonna feed you the good pet food first? Nah. We're starting with a game that has a smaller player base and an even smaller amount of good things about it. The first game we're going to talk about is called Dystovia, a Roblox MMORPG that doesn't have that many things unique about it, aside from the weird ass looking player models. Now that's a hook. Anyways, unlike Vesteria, Arcane Odyssey, and World Zero, the team for Dystovia is pretty small and consisting of only about 3 people. So while I was really mean to the team over at Vesteria for fumbling the easiest bag of all time, I'll try to be a little more constructive with my criticism with this team, as the reason I chose this game was because you, yes, you, the viewer, asked me to do so. With all that being said, I want games to become better, and I will not settle for that mediocre garbage. And this game knows mediocre garbage. So let's get on with some basics. The game uses custom player models, which I think is a cool touch, and it adds a little bit of extra layers to the game design. I think where it fails though is there's no way to actually get a full look of your player model, as the camera is always locked behind your back, which I just don't understand. Some of the later armor looks really cool, so why do you lock the camera? I assume it would be fairly easy to fix this issue. I know you can go in your inventory and see, but f that. Dev team, make a button to unsnap the camera from your back. One thing I liked about this game was the world design. Unlike Vesteria, which shares similarities due to using the Roblox terrain feature, I feel Dystovia makes it work a lot better. Some of the locations even genuinely surprised me because of how good they looked even in alpha. I'll also add that some of the models aren't the worst. Basic? Yeah. But not bad, not at all. Sadly, there's times where it's obvious the amount of copy and paste that exists in the enemies, but I feel for a game that's only in alpha, it's not a bad thing, because they'll most likely change it in full release. Now, I'm gonna take a step back here and repeat something. This game's in alpha, and has been in alpha for a few months now. Most of the popular videos that came out on it came out around 10 months ago, so I'll say that's how long it's been in alpha. That being said, if you have an issue with me judging a game that's still in alpha, go fuck yourself. You're playing a Roblox game as your main game. It's obvious you have other problems in your life more important than me criticizing your favorite game. Anyways, let's talk about gameplay. Unlike the other Roblox RPG, Dystovia is going for a more simpler combat style. I want to say it takes inspiration from Souls-likes as it follows some similar patterns. We have rolling, parrying, and the amount of damage you take from enemies means you actually have to play a lot slower than other Roblox RPGs. And while I think the combat isn't bad, it really needs polish. Like, there's times where I dodge out of the way of an enemy, go in for an attack, just for the enemy to randomly hit me with no animation being played at all. And it's not like a one-time thing, it's a consistent issue that this game really has. Luckily, it's not a game ender, but it definitely doesn't feel good to fight when I'm fighting with issues out of my control. And let's get it out of the way. I live in Japan, so many Roblox games are hell for me because Roblox loves putting me in Western lobbies. I'll be playing here in Japan on American servers. So while the issue of combat could be a latency issue, it's on the developer to find a way to make combat work for all sorts of latency and device specs, as Roblox is mainly played by kids on their shitty tablets running off of mobile data in a hot ass car while their parents go buy them Mr. Beast Feastable bars. Let's get some fast ones out of the way. We have enemies that don't move, not enough quests, the game's a bandit beater, blah blah blah. Content. You guys know me in content. I have a video where I complained about the games as content, and this video isn't any different. Dystovia actually has decent content. There's quests that actually make you use your brain and have you go all throughout the map finding different enemies or locations to find the materials you're looking for. And while I think this is a good thing in concept, holy shit is it annoying in practice. Unlike Deep Woken, this game's world is not on the same level quite yet. The quality just isn't the same. So running from one side to the map to the other just gets annoying after a while. And I'd honestly would rather just have a main storyline quest rather than random quests that are spread throughout that mean nothing at the end of the day. We're gonna keep it similar to the last video, the good and the bad of the game. The good, we have the art style and the world of the game. I think it has a lot of potential, and while it's bland right now, I feel with the right ideas they could really have a memorable world, maybe even on the same level as Deep Woken. The combat isn't the best, but it's way better than most of Roblox and actually tries to make it engaging. You're not just spamming magical abilities or right click, actually having to dodge and worry about stamina. It's simple, but it's effective. If they iron out some of the issues, then they'll have a good combat system on their hands. Finally, I think the use of custom models and enemies is really going to do well for the game in the long run. Weapons and armor look really cool, but we really need to seriously update some of these animations. They're very stiff and outdated for any game that wants a chance of reaching the Roblox front page without being a shitty simulator game or a quote-unquote hardcore game. Moving on to the bad, we have the bandit beater issue. Love them or hate them, many Roblox devs can't seem to fathom the idea of content outside of hitting useless enemies over and over to gain random pixels on a screen. Please add more quests, a story, something, cause I'm not gonna do a quest that tells me to kill 19 doe again. I think the movement feels slow and sluggish, not really getting around that unless they redo how movement works. And finally, the lack of any real unique content. If you played an MMORPG before, you've played Dystovia. Why play Dystovia when you could play Guild Wars 2, which does everything Dystovia does, and for like $40 you can get 1,000 times more content at a higher quality. So should you try Dystovia, a free-to-play Roblox MMORPG? I know I was hard on it, but I say yeah. If you have time to kill, put on some creepcasts and just goon for a few hours.
Oh yes! Oh my god, I'm gooning! Oh, I'm coming! Oh my god, I'm coming! Yeah!
See how the game treats you. There's potential with this game, but you know me, I don't play potential, I play fun shit. And while Dystovia has its fun moments, it has its boring moments too, and a lot of them.
SAS AMOGUS
Want to join US
BIT BGR N サドリ
Ah yes, Fantastic Frontiers, one of the most requested games on my last YouTube video. Why? This game fucking sucks. Is what I wrote when I played the game for 20 minutes with zero push in the right direction. After playing a little bit more by myself, I started to understand a little more of the game, and after a guide or two, I have a basic understanding of the game and its inner workings. This is currently the most requested game I have on my channel, and for good reason. While the game is on the older side, doesn't get many consistent updates, and when we get to the negatives on the game, I hope you can see my side of things, this game really does have a lot of good content that can understand why there's a small community built behind it. And when I mean small, I mean small. This game averages around the 60 to 100 player range, and most likely will never go above that unless you, the viewer, finds it interesting and goes to play it. So let's get into my first impressions. If you want a full review of the game, let me put this out here first. This is not a 10 to 15 hour review of the game. This is a 3 to 5 hour review going over my first impressions, and so if you want a full review where I have endgame experience, the only way that'll happen is if you
leave a like and hit that subscribe button.
I mean, come on, you know the drill. Nah, I'm just f***ing with you. The best way for me to actually know is if you just comment on it. Anyways, Fantastic Frontiers, an OG in the Roblox MMORPG genre, coming out over 6 years ago now, and it's pretty much dead. I don't think the game gets any more major updates, and if it does, it's not consistent. This also isn't a small fry RPG. This is a game with over 30 million plays and 6 years worth of content. So what do you get? Well, starting up the game, you get a cool ass intro with amazing models that look like they have a ton of work put into them. Clicking play, you get put into the world, and well, it does not start off very good. I'm sorry, but while Fantastic Frontiers has a lot of really badass looking models, the early game is the worst I've ever had to experience in my life. First of all, your character is really slow, jumps like a white girl, and dies in one shot to most enemies, which for the most part to me is fine. The problem lies in the game's main shtick, which is exploration. It's like if in Death Stranding you can only walk with no shoes on as your main form of exploration. It's slow. There's also an annoying fog that plays into gameplay, but in my opinion it just looks like shit. And you know it's a silly game when the first NPC you ask for help with says,
Hey, wanna make money? Go collect random shit and sell it to this fat ass raccoon. Meanwhile, if you see any enemies, don't go near them or you die.
The community also doesn't acknowledge melee as a class because compared to magic, it's just useless. So the game has a slow start and is very unbalanced. Already not in a good spot. So what's good about this game? Well, starting off we have the models. The modeling is done really good and all of the armor is custom and a lot of the endgame gear looks so amazing. I also really love the world. It's very easily rememberable, and while I hate the fog and think the character moves way too slow, I can see how as you play the game more, the more you'll remember key points on the map in order to get around the map a little bit easier. Sadly though, this game doesn't have any save slots, so it's not like it matters to remember where early game grind spots are because unless you make a new Roblox account, it's not like you'll need to remember these spots anyways. I think the lore and characters behind the game are also done amazingly. They look good, give funky dialogue, and are amazingly done. I think even though this game doesn't give you a tutorial, unlike many other Roblox hardcore games, it does the game justice. I mean, the first NPC you lay eyes on tells you how to make money, get armor, mine, fish, etc., all in 2 to 3 minutes of speaking. So what's the gameplay of the game like? What do you do? How do you progress? Is what you're asking me. Well, Fantastic Frontiers at the end of the day is a game that delves onto the past of older MMORPGs. The community is what makes the game fun. Asking people for help, getting killed by broken enemies, it screams early 2000s MMO, and while it sounds good on paper, the community being dead and the servers being small really does damper the new player experience as of 2024. To make money, you can kill enemies that drop loot or simply pick up expensive items. Using the money, you can buy stronger weapons, aka magic or ranged DPS items, to kill bosses that drop even rarer and more powerful loot. And that's the game. There's a ton of more mysteries, places to explore, and loot to find. And I probably will make a video on it in the future. But for now, that's what I've seen in the game, and that's the information I'm giving you. Let's move on to the good and the bad. This game has amazing models. The armor all looks badass, and the NPCs all look funky and unique. I keep saying funky throughout this video. Fantastic Frontiers also has a very memorable map that many of the veteran players easily remember. There's not a lot of locations, which makes the locations you do find really appealing and detailed. The community is based and loves to help or flex on newbies, though with the low player counts you'll be lucky to see another player in the first place. Finally, we'll talk about the content, and there's a lot of content. I'm talking probably over 50 to 100 hours worth of items, places to explore, and bosses to defeat. If you're looking for a game to kill time on, this is probably one of the best for you, and I can see why many people ask me to play it. Even if I didn't put hundreds of hours to get to the end game, I've seen enough to understand their point of view. Sadly, like most games, this game isn't perfect. The community being dead is one of those issues. No one wants to play a dead MMO, and sadly, 60 players spread out through many servers, not even mentioning the fact that there are private servers, isn't exactly alive in a kicking game. The early game is also known as the worst part of the game, taking players anywhere from 5 to 10 hours depending on RNG and the game knowledge to get out of. That's 5 to 10 hours of picking up random shit and dying over and over trying to explore the map. Not what you want to have players dealing with. Fantastic Frontiers also sadly probably won't get any more updates. Though people have said that there's one coming this year, I don't see that happening as we're already halfway through it, and I've seen nothing on the wiki talking about it. In conclusion, if you have hours of time to spare and want a game that will show you what an OG MMO used to look like, Fantastic Frontiers is up there. It lacks in small details, but makes up for that with its abundance of content, amazing modeling, and a world that's remembered by thousands 6 years later. You just know I had to add a mediocre game to the mix like Vesteria. While Dystovia has the potential and Fantastic Frontiers had the pot of gold, Swordburst 3 does nothing special whatsoever. Have you ever played Swordburst 1 or 2? Well, then you've played Swordburst 3. The gameplay formula has not changed. No, not even in the slightest. So, to make a long story short, do you like bandit beaters? If not, sadly the only game on this list for you is Fantastic Frontiers, which has more of an exploration and community side to it. Now, to not hate on this game too much, let me just explain what this game is. Swordburst 3 is the sequel to Swordburst 2 and Swordburst Online, which at the time were extremely well loved by the community when they released. They had custom models, lots of content, and at the time the gameplay was considered good. Swordburst 3 takes the gameplay from Swordburst 2 and Swordburst Online and doesn't do anything with it at all. All it does is make the models look better. And hey, I'm not gonna hate. These models look really good, and so do the effects. Any of the people who worked on these should be heavily praised for their work. Good job, guys. But to the greedy asshole who decided this game needed to come out, fuck you. Swordburst Online on release had many features that many other Roblox games at the time really didn't have that made the game, well, good. Swordburst 3 looks flashy on the outside, but the inside is really just a jumbled mess of nothingness. Can you tell I really don't like this game? And if you like bandit beaters where you'll eventually get overpowered armor, weapons, and look badass, this game isn't the worst thing to spend a Saturday on. But if you respect your time and want a game that'll be around in 2 to 3 years, this game really isn't for you. If the creator follows his pattern, there will be a Swordburst 4 in another few years that will probably just be the exact same game with only visual improvements to show for. Let's move on to the good and bad because I'm already over it. This game has some really good models. Honestly, amazing work done by the team, and I hope to see more models like this in updates to come. The overall art style, world, and look of the game is also really good. A lot better than both Fantastic Frontiers and Dystovia, which don't hold up quite as well compared to Swordburst 3. I think the gameplay is simple enough to understand that literally anybody can play it, and if you don't like bandit beaters, you'll know early from the start that you won't like this game, so it doesn't fake what it is, unlike many other games. And really, that's all the good for this game. It's not impressive in terms of gameplay, and it screams, "I hate you" at the top of its lungs. Why do I say this, you might ask? Well, the microtransactions for this game aren't the worst, but they exist, and the fact that you cannot dual wield a fucking sword without a $10 game pass is retarded. Please, for the love of all things holy, do not waste your money on a $10 game pass. Go buy Deepwoken. For all of its faults, it's nowhere near as bad as Swordburst 3 in terms of mental retardation. The game is a bandit beater, so if you don't like bandit beaters, you won't like this game. There's no ands, ifs, or Pokemon fart compilation buts to change that fact. The game's boring. I mean, come on, you're literally walking up to an NPC, accepting a quest, killing some mobs, then moving on. There's nothing special about that. There's a few chests throughout the map that I guess you can open for some rewards, and after beating World 1 you can get some sort of tower-like game mode, but the main meat of this game is just beating bandits. I'm being too mean to this game. Don't take this too seriously, guys. If you like the game, that's fine. There's times I find myself playing these types of games when I'm bored, and I have no room to talk since I've been grinding camos in Black Ops Cold War for the past 10 hours. I think this game has potential, and if later content is better, comment down below. But as for first impressions go, I'm not impressed. I feel like I've played this game before, and there's a good reason for that. I have. I want to thank you guys for the support I've been getting on my channel. I inch closer and closer to 1,000 subs every day, and hopefully in July we can finally just hit it. If you guys have any ideas that you want me to play, any new games, be it Roblox or not, leave a comment down below and I'll give my honest opinions with a little bit of quirky satire that'll make any white girl angry. And again, thank you for watching.